Story number two, the different channels that are causing some people to be disconnected. This story is an interesting story. It basically what I found out in some of my research is that some people in America are on a different wavelength, and there are people who are. I always say that if the preacher tells you that everything is all good, and you go outside and you see that everything is not all good, but you feel good, somebody somewhere has a different attitude and a different perception on what you may be seeing. Because the reality of the situation is that there is a disconnect between a lot of Americans right now. And this disconnect is influencing how they act at the polls. Now, some people have been shouting about this thing about socialism and about what system actually work. I was talking to a veteran at an event the other day, and we were talking about capitalism. And if you don't, this is like the biggest disconnect that people can have when you're in poverty and you understand the system. The question we have to ask ourselves in this is why do, and this is what a lot of Republicans don't understand, why do a lot of minority groups vote for keep putting people in office that really don't change the way people are living? I'm not going to use any racial groups because this is not that type of ball game today. But but a lot of people are confused on why people make the decisions. And what I found out is, I've said this in previous shows, is that there is a disconnect. Now, there's also some things that are going on with how women behave. There was a story that surfaced saying that some people believe that Disney, the way they present their princesses in the movies, is really a bad thing for girls because it's separating them from the real world. And folks, there is a real world. These girls, they're, like I said, a few years ago, well, not just a few years ago, but a few weeks ago, I found stories that have surfaced about 50,000 women being killed worldwide, and the number keeps counting. Women have been getting sold into slavery, and it's questionable with this, with understanding that you're starting to see that women are not. If you took this back years ago, there was a little bit more respect for women. So we're in a different day and age now where women are able to do what men are doing. So, but what I'm saying is, the point is that there's a disconnect on all aisles. Years ago, we did not see this many Russians around the United States. So people are starting to try to connect things, and they're starting to find out that there's actually a source to where all this is coming from. The disconnect that getting all Americans to wake up and see what's actually happening in the melting pot is a bit tough, because some people are so brainwashed that it's hard to get them to actually see the big picture. There are still children who believe that being a successful musician is going to solve all of their problems. There are children who think that making it to the NBA is going to solve all of their problems. The dream, the American dream, is not dead. It's just the fact that there's a reality that starts to set in as you start to get older. So there's a disconnect. So when you look at policy and you look at the policies that are put in place, you have to ask yourself is, why are so many people disconnected? Why didn't that many people show up to the polls to vote? In this last election, there may have just been one thing on the ballot, but you have to look at the fact that years ago, people were dying to vote. So how did all these people get disconnected from reality? You have to look at secret documents showing that Russia has been plotting to stoke racial violence in America. I actually read a story about this. 6 Russian planes intercepted by U.S. off Alaska coast. So how in the world did all of a sudden Putin just weasel his way into on the board? Russia has been ever since they were talking about the Soviets and the past dealings with Russia, and a lot of people have always said that Russia could never be trusted. So we're starting to ask ourselves is how in the world all of a sudden did this happen where you have Putin getting a leg in the game when you look at the annexation of Ukraine, the involvement in Syria, he's in Venezuela, then you've got planes flying over Alaska. There was a story that surfaced about maybe about a year ago, a few months back, about spy ships around the coast of around America. So we have to ask ourselves is how did everybody become disconnected? How did if people in Washington have been doing their job, how did our foreign policy end up all over the world? We have soldiers everywhere maintaining a presence. So we have to ask ourselves in this question, you look at this, Joe Biden has been able to they're asking about black voters. 38% Fox News poll has been saying. And then you look at the how they've been saying about how there's a big disconnect from the past to now. Republicans can't figure out why do a lot of African Americans vote Democrat. So there's obviously over all these years been some strategy on the ground game. Then you have the relationship between the public and the police. Why in the world is all of these, you see these black and blue flags, black and white flags, red, white, and blue. There's all this confusion on the ground. NFL players kneeling. The country's people are talking about all this division. Then people are bringing up stuff that happened in the 60s. We're in 2020 and we're rewinding it back to the 60s. People are marching, holding fists up. Folks, this is real. You got a country that has grand opportunity. The land is fertile. Seeds are being planted, and you have to ask yourself is how did everybody become disconnected? That's story number 2. And it may gain some steam. There was a story that surfaced about an off-duty firefighter who was attacked by teens after defending an elderly couple. These are teenagers. They're talking about how teenagers are being arrested. They're talking about snitching, and they're talking about their homies. They're talking about teens are on drugs. They're getting involved with adult activities. They're talking back to their parents. They're raping girls. Folks, how did you have all of this money that was geared towards a better world? You had hippies at Woodstock just talking about peace, color for shirts everywhere, and then all of a sudden everybody's doped up and we're trying to figure out how we're going to get everybody back to work. How did everybody become so disconnected? This is a reality. I tell you, mediation is tough, but somebody's got to do it. Let's get through there. We got to get through. So if you want to contribute, METHOD, the number 8, INC.com, methodating.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, or just read something, or just sponsor a program. It is my supreme duty every week. As a child, I was put up to the clouds and told by the prophets that I would be something great. Even in my failure, I would feel great, and I would make others feel great by informing them. I was given a testimony by all of the prophets, priests and mentors, Egyptian and ancient Kemites coming from the clouds telling me that I was going to be great, and I feel great, and I'm giving you greatness in every story.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens.